Cindy. I agree. All right. So first thing I always want to do is kind of think about my gesture. Let me make sure I'm on the right pen. There I am. Boop.
So what's the point of a gesture? Or a gesture?
I mean, you said the same thing twice.
Like a gesture. Like a
Same thing. It's fine.
gesture.
What do you think the point is?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking you.
I failed then because we talked about this the very first week of class. Does anyone remember what the point of it is?
I'll take a crack at it.
Yeah, crack at it.
You know, the thing with gesture is that it seems funny to me because some artists like have different approaches. It seems to me a little bit slightly.
For sure.
But the thing I get from a gesture is just to kind of give yourself the essence of the pose, like Carl Ganas talks about.
Yeah.
And you just want to put some kind of line, something that gives you like in cartoons, animation, to talk about the line of action.
Mm-hmm.
It's just to give you kind of this general like energy flow of like where the direction of
Yeah.
the pose is going.
Yeah, ultimately it's like a guideline, right? So it's kind of like, yeah, that was a very good answer. It's for me, like I can talk about it for me, and I will talk about it conceptually. I think what David said is perfect, but it also represents where I want visually the top of the drawing to start, and where I want visually the end of the drawing to be. And it always, I think universally, if you ever think about like a gesture, it's always in the center of the form. So with the head, you're kind of thinking that there's like a pole sticking out from here and kind of coming out from the base of her chin, but it would be like right there. So the gesture should be kind of this anchor that kind of moves through somewhat of the center of the pole of your form, but also kind of connects the movement of the form, okay? So we talked about that a little bit, but I know it's so long ago. So yeah, that's kind of where things are at for me. Yeah, does that help?
Yeah.
Okay. So we made a mess on Erica. Let's clean up her face a little bit. All right, so I always kind of like do quick. I also talked about the fact that it usually, if the face is facing one direction, my line of action almost always goes the opposite direction. It always goes towards the arc of the shoulder that is kind of holding the weight of the form, okay? Or opposite of her facing position in simple non-Joe terms. Sometimes I get too complicated. And my kids are even like, can you speak English? I'm like, sure. All right. Second thing we want to do is draw that circle. Actually, orange on top of her skin color is probably not the best idea. So let's see if purple works. Purple is probably not the best idea. So let's see. I will use this green. Okay, and that circle, where should it be? Where should it go to? Boop, boop, boop. Right, base of the nose. Now the optical illusion is that I'm drawing a tilted circle. Is my circle tilted? No, it is not an ellipse. It is still a circle, okay? And then I want to split this in half. But will this work? If I take this half and bring it down, it's going to be a little bit lower than her actual jaw. Why? Because she's a girl. Is that what somebody said? No, because she's tilted, right? So instead, what I like to do is I will draw like a line that goes right from the center of her form, comes right through her brow bone, right through her nasal bone, right through that chin line, right? And that's going to be my center line. And then I have to eyeball this, okay? So it's one of those things where I can guesstimate, hey, this is like the halfway line, or I can draw like this. Let's draw like this. I'm drawing it at her. It's still going to go way too far, but I can say, hey, if this is where the chin should be, if she's tilting backwards, is it going to be longer or shorter? It's always going to be shorter, okay? What happens to the ears when you tilt backwards in space? They get higher, right, in space. What happens to the ears when you tilt forward? They're going to drop down, okay? So I have to kind of be aware of all those things, okay? I have a lot of green lines. Let me get rid of some of these. Her chin has got to go up in space, so I want to make sure that my line is also falling. Come on. My line is also, bless you, following that line of action. Bless you again. Okay. And then I will pull out some darker lines so we can see. All right. I like to immediately go to the side plane of the head, right? Come in, close off that side plane, right? You're gonna see usually two planes on this side. There's a little zygomatic bone, right? The mandible, the maxilla, the chin. You're probably gonna see three planes over here. One, two, and there's a little one right there, okay? And that's what's gonna make the big difference between that arc, okay? So it doesn't feel flat. If I just do this, you're gonna notice what's gonna happen to the face. It's gonna feel like a Halloween mask. It's gonna feel very flat, okay? So I still see this happening. So I'm just kind of doing this drawing really slow just to recap issues that I see repeating, right? Then I wanna add the back of her head, okay? Then I can connect that if I want, okay? So next step, I'm gonna re-establish my center line and I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna start marking things off, right? I do not wanna do that before I have drawn the neck, okay? I cut off her neck when I save this out, so I'm gonna have to like, kind of like make believe. All right, I like to go in and always just kind of like draw some line work for where my center is and where the sternocleidomastoid is coming from on both sides, okay? All right. Can you see underneath her chin? It's like very difficult. Like I probably could, but it's just like a hairline. So if I really wanted to draw it, I could like kind of come in here and it's gonna just be like a little tapering edge right there. So technically, yeah, but it's very narrow, okay? You would assume because she's tilting backwards and up, you're gonna see it. But what does it depend on? Where the camera is, yeah, where your eye line is, okay? All right, so center line, I'm gonna come from the top of the head to the base of the chin, about halfway down. Let's do a little measurement here. There's my straight line. If I was to cut my line in half, it is about halfway down, okay? Just curious, just want to do that just to see. All right, so there's gonna be my starting point. I'm gonna go from tear duct to tear duct. I'm just gonna draw a straight line, okay? I'm gonna go from base of the nose to base of the nose. I'm gonna draw a straight line, okay? And then from apex of the mouth to apex of the mouth, oops, sorry. Should be the bottom, okay? I'm gonna draw a straight line, right? Remember we're making halfways, okay? But yes, that's also gonna be a necessary line eventually, okay? So all those lines will be more or less parallel, you know, somewhat, okay? Try and get them close. What I don't wanna see is this, you know, which I still see a lot of, or that. Just try and keep them consistent. All right. So I'm gonna start to speed this up so we can get to the value stuff because that's what I really wanna talk about. Okay, what is next in this role of drawing the human face? We can do two things. I like to draw with the big shapes. What are the big shapes on Erica? Hair, right? The mask. You could actually see her hairline because it is a pretty short hairdo is following her exact mask line. That is a tilted line that I just drew. Let me straighten that out.
That's also gotta be straight with the nose.
Yes. There we go. Sorry, flatten that out. It should be. Not always, but it should. But that's why it kind of looked a little funky when I drew it, and I'm like, wait, that doesn't look right, right? I can come up, and I'm gonna try to use straighter-ish lines when I'm drawing the head and the hair. Okay. And you can see if I was to like come through and like draw this for you guys and really kind of talk about the process, what am I like literally trying to draw? Yeah, like a rooftop, I kind of call it, right? Where I'm kind of like drawing a shape that feels like it's actually circumventing her head. Why is that important?
For planes and being able to know where the light like hits on those planes.
Yeah, and it feels like it's doing what? It's sitting on her head, right? Otherwise, if my lines are going in the wrong direction, like if I had a line that's doing this, what's gonna happen to that plane? Yeah, it's gonna throw everything off kilter, okay? So those little stupid little lines that I'm making, they're actually really important. They're not stupid at all, right? They're actually really important. I know you said so stupid. I'm ignoring you. They're really important because they're actually lined up with our anatomical landmarks, okay? Yes, there's a little extra one right here that I saw, but I can simplify that a little bit, but I'm gonna leave it the way I drew it, okay? I hear you whispering in the corner of my ear, evil one. All right, next thing I wanna draw from the hair is the next biggest shape, would be the chin, but the chin is done. Okay, so what am I gonna move to? You guys tell me, what would you do next? The zygomatic bone will help, but it's not gonna tell you anything specific. What do you need to move to? You could do the ear, but you don't have the placement of the eyes. You could do the ear, but you don't have placement of the eyes, so I wouldn't. All right. You can kind of see where the nose is. So I know maybe where the ear is going to end. You could draw the ear, right? But that wouldn't be like a necessary, like, important aspect of the head. What's important? Right? Why is that important? It's the center of the form, right? It's going to tell me where everything is. So I just want to use this measurement to tell me the width, right, of the arc between the orbit of the eyes, and it's going to help me like establish where my eye line is. And look how low the eye line is compared to that keystone, right? They're not close, right? And this is like a normal situation, so you want to be aware that your keystone should not be like low, right? Her eyebrow like sits right on her brow line. How can I tell? Look at this light source. It goes right over her eye line, right? So I know that her eyebrow sits right on top of that anatomical landmark. So she made it easy for me. Why? All I got to do is follow her eyebrows, right? Can I show you how to do eyebrows? Sure. Jiggle, 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 jiggle. No, that is it, my friend. That is it. It is actually pretty easy. Her eye line is like right at the orbit of her eyes, so her eyes are actually pretty low in her orbit. Right. There's always a little bit of space underneath. And the way I could tell that, right, you're getting this flat value, and then the light kind of begins to cusp around right there, so I know that's where her eye is. So I'm getting really detailed so you guys have all this stuff to kind of think about, okay? Yes, I know, I am boring. How many yawns is that, Cindy? All right, so we have our orbit of the eyes. What do we want to do from here? Nose, right? I'm going to redraw my center line so that it's going up the keystone. You don't have to do this, but I like to do this. But why am I doing this? Because that's going to help me find the center line for my nose, right? Does everyone kind of see why that line is important to me? Right? I have a very special relationship with that line. I will draw out the top of the bridge of the nose and not even worry about the ball, right? All I want to do is draw that front plane. And then I'm going to come in and flatten out that front plane. I will always go to this like little corner of the eye, and I will usually make a line and be like, where's that? All right, where's that? It's in perspective over here, so it's not going to match. But then I can come in and I can be like, okay, well, her nose is going to be like right here, right here, right? Here's this line that I already made right here, okay? And then I'm going to draw out that shape. Okay. Boop. Okay, so in really basic terms, it's kind of how I would break it down. And now I can draw the ball of the nose. Oops, big eraser. Too big. Right, and that's how I can kind of like start to break down the nose a little bit. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. If it's too complicated, let me know and I can do it again. I like to, when I can see it, draw through the center of the nose, and I can kind of see it, and I can just adjust these lines later, okay? Everything pretty straight lines, and I can kind of like soften them up or do what I need to do later. I'm not really worried about it now. I'm gonna like...
So you drew the ball of the nose as a flat plane?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Even though it's called the ball, I still believe straight lines kind of help me to define the shapes a little bit more clearly in my head. I did not draw like this, by the way, when I was a student. I had to teach myself how to draw like this because I saw my teachers doing it over and over and again, and I was like, I'm doing something wrong. And it has helped me to understand shapes by forcing myself to draw uncomfortably.
When do you switch or start to switch?
When I started teaching,
Really?
yeah,
Like what? Like
30s,
okay.
yeah. So like when I teach you guys, it's very uncomfortable for me to draw.
Is it still like that?
Uh-huh.
At home you just regress to the.
No, I have like stuck to this,
Okay.
but like I've had to retrain my brain to think in a different way. Yeah.
Normally it's more curvy.
Normally I just like, you know, everyone else. I just kind of like, oh, what's her cheek doing? Oh, it's kind of doing this and then this. But I have realized the benefit in just kind of using lines as a measurement tool and also simultaneously forcing myself to see how shapes shift in relationship to values. So it has helped. So I could even push this a little bit farther and say, okay, one nostril is going to be here, one nostril is going to be here. But I don't want to do that all right now because I wouldn't do this much drawing just to place values in, right? So I'm keeping it kind of simple because I'm focusing on value relationships. All right, fill trim, and then I'm going to draw right down. So imagine center is going all the way across, fill trim. It's going to come all the way down through the chin, all the way down, okay? So even if I don't draw it in, this is what I visualize. I will always try to like make sure that I understand where the fill trim is going to be placed because that helps me to establish the circumference of what we call the muzzle of the mouth, right? Nothing is going to line up because even like her mouth, oh, it is. Yeah, her mouth should be like right here.
Would the edge of the mouth line up with the beginning of the eye or the middle of it?
Usually it's like right here at the tear duct.
Really?
Yeah. No. It's usually like right there. This one is a little bit closer. This one's a little bit off.
Is the tear duct on the nose side or the outside?
It's
Nose
right here.
side, right?
Boop, boop.
Because earlier
Boop, boop.
you said.
Those two little areas. All right. Did I just delete everything I just did? What happened? Where'd my line go? That was weird. All right. It just disappeared. Okay. Sometimes weird things happen in Procreate. All right. So I like to draw big shapes first. So I'm going to come around. I know this is easier to do drawing it on top of a photo, but this also will help you guys to see what I'm looking at. Let's make her mouth a little bit darker so everyone can see. All right. So what I'm looking at is a line. Can you see my blue line? Yeah, okay. That comes up and around like this. It's going to find itself in the middle and connect, okay? So that curve is going to come up and then it's going to come out like that. In a 3/4 view, I'm going to erase this little section right here, right? Because the two are going to create that little form in the shadow shape. So that is kind of what it should look like. All right. So I can see there's a little correction that needs to be made right here. I drew her lips way too low because it was too dark. Okay, and I can imagine that this is the middle, right? This is the single. All right, any questions so far? It's good? Okay, so let's crank through this. I know I'm taking my time. I want to come in and I want to draw the eyeballs. I love drawing eye shapes because they force me to like stay really focused. I always come in and draw the arc first, right? Always upper lid and then come down. You know, you can find your own patterns and habits. That's totally fine. And then I always go back up to the upper eyelid. That's just me. And then I can come down to the lower eyelid. Okay. I would never draw the eye, like the whole eye like this, but for informational purposes, we're going to leave it like this. Okay. Same thing over here. I like to go to the opposite side, come in, see where the placement is in relationship to the edge of the brow. Come in and draw that eye line. Okay. Right, that's what eye's gonna look like, okay? So that's gonna be there, there. I'm gonna come in and just draw like anatomical landmarks so we have a whole planimetric face. All right, and then I like to always draw that shadow anatomy underneath the neck. All right, so there's like a starting point for your planimetric head. Duplicate. Let me darken these lines. I wonder why Procreate has never fixed that bug. That's just stupid. Anyway,
Have you seen the new animation app?
dude, it's ridiculous. So cool.
Yeah.
I think it's going to change the industry, but yeah. Yes. Does anyone have any questions about this step? Super boring. I know. We all need to revisit this. What's the next step then? Values. So here's where we're going to start talking about edges and lines and all that stuff that we've rehashed. How many edges do we have when we think about values? 3. What are the 3 edges?
Curved, soft, and
Yeah.
Hard, firm,
firm.
and soft, right? So if I'm thinking about a hard edge, what am I using? Point of my pencil, right? Bing is my pencil, right? If I'm using the firm edge, which looks like firm right now, firm, there we go, there's an eye. What am I using? Ding, right there. If I'm using my soft edge, what am I using? The whole side. Okay? So it's kind of like the difference in terms of how I like visualize and how I think about it. Okay, I hope you all appreciate my wonderful illustration. I'm gonna completely get rid of this and completely get rid of this just so we can focus on her edges now. And we'll come back and bring that drawing in, assuming that we already had it there and it had never disappeared. Okay. I'm gonna use a black pencil, we're gonna go dark. Okay, so if I'm just looking at her eye, and this is where things get really hard for students, right? I am starting from this point and I'm going all the way to this point in space, right? I can start looking at the edges of the forms and I can start helping myself inform. So you'll see that this is a soft edge because the edge is turning, right? Whereas if I look at her eyeball, right, I know that my pupil has a very hard edge. So I'm gonna use point of my pencil, right, here. And here I will use the edge of my pencil. All right, and I love this Procreate pencil because I made it just so I could do this. Right, so I could show you the differences, okay? All it is used for, all I use it for is to do demos. It's pretty blah, right? I come in and I will go through and mark off all these shadow shapes. And you're gonna notice, where's the shadow and where's her light? Well, the shadow is actually right here. I have to look really close on her skin, right? That's the shadow, okay? Light source. Is this a firm or hard or soft edge? No. You will never see a soft edge underneath the orbit of the eye, but it is not a hard edge either. What is it? Firm, right? So I can use the tip of my pencil. I can be like, you know, this is gonna be a really specific shape because it's a specific shape, right? It's gonna come through and it's gonna create a ridge, and that ridge is gonna start again, and I will tell you it changes from firm to hard, right? Am I gonna get that meticulous when I'm doing a drawing? No, but I'm just showing you guys just so you understand the difference, right? If I'm doing a rendering, yes, I will spend a lot of time developing out those differences. What's the difference between a rendering and a drawing? Can anyone tell me? Yeah, time. I'm gonna get more specific the longer I spend on something. The longer I spend on something, the more I render on it, okay? We're never gonna render in this class because we're not gonna spend 15 hours on a face, okay? All right, I'm gonna come in and now I'm gonna map out some of her values. let's jump back a little bit. Her values are a little bit tricky, actually, right here. So I'm going to pay really close attention to them. They're going to come into the eye, all right, and they're going to jump out.
Did you group that so you can establish the nose more?
Yes, sir, I did. Good observation. Okay. You want to say that again so everyone can hear you?
Oh my god. He made the nose ridge longer, so he grouped the shadows. But there isn't that much shadow right there.
There is not.
But he just did that for the nose.
Yes, I did this to like help me establish this. Okay. All right. Now, is there a light source on the lower lid? Yes. So I'm going to come in. I'm going to be very, very careful with how I do this because this is going to be tricky. How do I want to map this out? So this would be hard to do with a charcoal pencil because this is a pretty small sliver. But I will say that this light right here is pretty important, right? And so is this little ridge of light. I'm gonna have to make my pencil smaller right here.
Why don't you just drop it down? Because it gets like
It will flatten it out, and then it will kind of make the eye feel dead.
Wow.
So these three lights, this one right here, this one right here, and this one right there, are actually really important. And the other one that's important is this one right here above the eyelid. Why? Can anyone tell me?
Just makes it spherical.
Because you're establishing the ridge, and yes, the way that it kind of wraps around the eye is very important, okay? So if I'm getting into a longer pose and I have the time, I will spend time to kind of like pay attention to those little aspects of planes, okay? Does that make sense to everyone so far? Okay, I'm not gonna do the whole drawing, don't worry, this is gonna take way too long. Coming in, right, her cheek, soft edge, and then cast shadow. As soon as I say the word cast, I know that it should be a what? Hard edge, okay? You're gonna go up and around. I'm gonna group this all together. Soft edge of the nose. I'm gonna rotate this because I can't do it with my hand. And that value goes up and around her nostril, and it comes in and it closes in on the nostril and it begins to shift in shape. So I am really getting detailed here so everyone can see exactly what I look at, okay? I can, if I wanted to, kind of like design the nose so that it's following that shadow a little bit more. And even right here, kind of connect that little value right there. But these are very, very sensitive like value relationships.
What about
Okay.
like the nose area, the bottom of the nose? Would that be a firm or would that be a harder side?
Nose area, bottom of the nose.
Right, look, sorry.
Right here?
Yeah.
That is a firm edge, yeah. Because it's anatomy, that stops, right? So, yeah. I always put the fill trim in, even if it's barely there, just so it's like a landmark, okay? I know that's like a hard line, it shouldn't be. Come in, all right, I'm gonna mark off the mouth. If she's got lipstick, that lipstick is gonna change the value of the mouth. So just be honest to what you see. All right. And then if you follow, you're gonna see that you want to identify the fact that that is actually in highlight. Have you ever seen lips that close up? All right. And all this is pretty hard edge, so I'm just gonna go through and then it shifts again to soft. Okay. And obviously I wanna come in and just kind of group, 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 group. Always try and separate the chin from the neck just so you have it in your drawing so you can see the difference between those two. Okay? And if I was doing this, I would try to like make myself like a little marker for where the, like what I call the apex, or where the mouth meets the other side, just so I know the relationship of the difference. And I also try to do the same thing with the nostrils, even if I'm grouping them, just so I can kind of see where they are. Because it is an important landmark and you don't want to get lost, okay? All right, so we'll do the other eye really quick. Okay, hard edge, hard edge, hard edge. I'm gonna come in. That's the highlight.
You don't even include all the lights, you just cut the.
Yeah, I'm trying to be very selective. I mean,
Even on
I
the side.
could put this one in there, but you really don't need that.
Doing it?
Huh?
Could you get away with not doing that?
Yeah, you definitely can. Yeah, I don't need it. The other side's a little bit more complicated. Right, these are all hard edges. Nothing I'm seeing is really like soft at all. Okay, and I'm not seeing any value on this side, right? This is all skin that's shifting and eyeshadow. So that is not value, okay? Here's the ridge, right? That's gonna create that separation. And I always wanna leave a little space here, so I'm not gonna close off that shape, okay? All right, so there's a little bit more shadow right here, okay? You know, I guess I could group this. This is like value. It's very subtle. I could kind of like make this like a really soft value that I can group in, okay? And then she's got like values here. Obviously the hair is all gonna go into value and blah, 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 okay? So with that said, we're gonna throw in a color really quick. I forgot the side of her head. Okay. Okay. All right. So if I kind of look at everything, you can see how the map kind of sits with that planimetric head, and everything still lines up when it comes to the nose, when it comes to the eyes. You can see how, you know, if you're doing this correctly, your planimetric lines are just kind of like acting as a roadmap, okay? All right, last but not least, I want to throw in some values, then I'll let you guys do some drawing. Okay. I want to keep it, I want you guys to try and stick to like 2 values today, not get more than that. But if you feel like you can have a third value, we can talk about that really later on in the class, or we can talk about it on Thursday. All right,
When do we talk about hands?
2 weeks.
next week, I think.
No, next week is expressions.
Yes, you're right. Next week's muscles, the week after. Yeah. Probably the hardest week is next week. Yeah. Hands are the hardest, though, by far. All right, so what do I want to do? I have 2 directions I can move in, right? One is up and down, the other is left and right. Do I want to do this?
Can you go diagonal?
Sure. Just make sure it's consistent, okay? Yes. So I just want to look at my figure, and I want to kind of decide what direction I want to go in. For me, for her, hello, I'm just going to go up and down and just kind of start marking some of these shapes off. And the key is just to make sure that you are staying really close to the form, right? And these lines are going to do their job. I don't even have to like lay it in like perfectly by any means, right?
Dude, who came up with grouping?
Who came up with what?
Grouping.
I don't think you can point to one person. As far as I know. All right, so what I don't want to do is in the middle of my drawing, change direction and do this. Because the values are going to meet and they're going to create like a weird overlap right there. So I like to just, if I'm going to go in that direction, hello. Sometimes my pencil's a little sensitive when I try and draw on its side. Just kind of continue to move in that direction through the whole drawing. Even if you're doing it fast, all right? I don't care. As long as I can tell kind of what you're trying to do. And then you can go through user needed eraser and clean it up a little bit later. I'm just trying to get this done, so I'm moving kind of fast. Stop. Okay, it does not want to listen to me, so go. There we go. Okay, what I'm doing is nothing significant. It's not a miracle. You know, it is just what it is. That's the only time where I'll change my direction. If I have like a thin line like that, feel free to draw that line, you know? So what I do when I have something like the eye is I will take my line work and I'll just go in, boop, and I'll erase my lights. You know, because I'll always overdraw in those areas. Okay, I didn't really push down here. All right. So I just want to see something that looks a little bit like that. Use your edges to kind of control the values and the way that you place them, okay? I have in the past kind of gotten to a place where the students are able to do like multiple values. I don't know that we're going to be able to do that here, but this is an old demo, and I'll just kind of recap this really quick. Let me get rid of my little drawing for it. There we go. The thing that I always tell everyone is start with a value in your background. So if I'm gonna put in like a 3-value system, can you guys see this? I will always break down my drawing first with like a value that I'll wash on top of everything using like a Vine charcoal, because I want to erase out. So I'll have that value down first. And then I will start drawing on top of that really simple value relationship, and then I'll start to break down all my shadow shapes. So I think this is like a 5-value demo, but you can kind of see how the core shadows and the same principles exist. So first value down, second value, erase, third value is the value that we just created on Erica, just putting down your value shapes, okay?
Do you erase after you've done the planometric drawing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Basically, I'm putting like a really light wash on my drawing on newsprint. Yeah. Okay. So if you guys want to try this on Thursday, I can do a demo from the model and we can kind of talk about that. But let's see how far we can get today. Okay. Any questions?